It was a typical Thursday evening in New York. My husband Michael had to leave for a business trip at the last minute. I never imagined that night would turn into something unforgettable. That evening, we had planned to have dinner with one of his closest friends, Chris, but Michael's flight changed everything. I was left alone. I was alone when Chris knocked on the door. The knock was soft, but it sent a strange shiver down my spine. I opened the door, expecting the usual friendly smile, but something in his eyes, something in the way he stood there, made my heart skip a beat. "Hey," he said, his voice low, almost hesitant. "I was on my way out, but I thought I'd stop by, see if you needed company." Little did I know, the unexpected turn of events would leave me questioning everything and everyone. Chris had always been charming. A little older, a little wiser than me. He was the kind of man who carried himself with ease, with quiet confidence, like he never had to chase anything. And yet, tonight there was something different, a subtle shift in his demeanor, something unspoken between us. We sat down together, talking about everything and nothing at all. The clock struck 9, and the rain began to fall harder. Chris had planned to leave earlier, but the storm outside had made him pause, just as the uncertainty hung between us like thick fog. I could see it in his eyes, that hesitation. He wasn't sure what to do, and neither was I. "Guess I better head out," he said, his voice softer than usual. But I saw the doubt in his eyes, like he was searching for something. The rain battered the windows, making the house feel even quieter, more intimate. "Stay for a while," I found myself saying before I could stop myself. "The rain doesn't look like it's letting up anytime soon." I wasn't sure why I said it. Maybe because I didn't want the evening to end. Maybe because I didn't want to be alone. But there it was, a simple invitation. Before I continue, let me ask you where you're watching from tonight. Drop your city in the comments below. I'd love to know how far my story is reaching. The storm outside was relentless, but it was something in the air between us that kept us both still, uncertain of what to do next. Chris didn't hesitate. He nodded, and we both got up to grab a drink, the tension now undeniable. There was a small part of me that felt guilty for having him stay, for inviting him in so easily. I wasn't sure why it felt like something more than just a friend staying for a drink. As the minutes turned to hours, the room felt smaller, the tension between us thickening with each passing second. We found ourselves cleaning the old guest room together, a room that hadn't seen company in years. The dust was thick and the air was stale, but there was something strangely comforting about being together, about sharing this space. Chris moved around the room with purpose, his actions deliberate, but as our eyes met, something shifted. Our hands brushed as we both reached for the same box, and the simplest touch sent a wave of heat rushing through me. For a brief second, it felt like the world had stopped. The moment hung in the air, suspended, and before I knew it, we were standing closer than we had been before. The space between us had closed so subtly, so quietly, that I wasn't even sure when it happened. And in that room, the one I had cleaned just for him, the air was heavy with something neither of us could deny. Before I continue, I want to take a moment to thank all my amazing subscribers for your support. It's because of you that this channel continues to grow and reach more people who love stories like this. If you want to be part of this incredible journey and see more videos just like this one, please subscribe to this channel. You'll be the first to know when my next video drops, and I can't wait to share it with you. Now, let's get back to the story. By the time the rain still hadn't let up, I was tired, exhausted from cleaning and from the strange energy between us. The house felt oddly quiet now, and as I got ready for bed, I thought about how strange it was to feel this unsettled. I hadn't felt this kind of stir in years, certainly not with Chris. The storm outside kept pounding, its steady rhythm almost a reminder that time was passing, pulling me into a space I didn't want to go. I turned off the lamp, the room dimming to a soft, gentle hue, and then, just as I was settling in under the blankets, I heard it. A soft knock at my door. Startled, I pushed the covers aside, my heart racing, unsure of what I was expecting. I opened the door, and there he was, standing there, his posture more hesitant than usual. Chris. His gaze was fixed on the floor, but his presence, my God, his presence, it filled the space between us, charging the air. "I can't sleep," he said, his voice low, almost a whisper. "Mind if I stay in here for a while?" What was it about his presence that made my heart race? Why did I feel drawn to him in a way I shouldn't? Without thinking, I nodded. There was no reason not to let him in, right? It was just a friend, my husband's closest friend, no less. But as he stepped inside, my pulse quickened. Something about him tonight felt different. It was as if the very air between us had changed, thickened somehow. Chris walked in slowly, taking a seat at the edge of the bed, his movements deliberate, his eyes still not meeting mine. But it wasn't awkward. No, there was something more to it. A subtle weight in the space we shared, pulling us closer without saying a word. The silence that followed felt almost unbearable. His gaze lingered on the wall, but I could feel it. His eyes had shifted, studying me without speaking. It wasn't uncomfortable, not exactly. But there was an intensity to it, a silent understanding that both of us knew something unspoken was shifting. The silence between us was electric, as if the air itself was charged, waiting for the first touch to break the tension. If you're enjoying the tension building between us, please take a second to like this video. It helps me know that you're feeling the same way about where this is going. Don't forget to like and let me know if you want me to keep going with these kinds of stories. He sat there, not looking at me directly, but his eyes followed my every movement. There was something magnetic about the way his gaze lingered, like he was studying me, trying to read something between the lines. I could feel it, the weight of his silence, the pull between us growing with every passing second. Then he spoke, his voice a whisper, soft but undeniable. "It's not just the rain. It's something more. I don't want to hide from it anymore." His words were simple, but they hit me harder than I expected. It wasn't just the confession. It was the way he said it, like he had been carrying this weight for longer than he'd let on. And now it was here, out in the open. I didn't respond at first, unsure of what he meant. The air between us felt thick, charged, like the storm had settled in our hearts instead of outside. But deep down, I felt it too, a pull, a connection. It wasn't just the rain, it wasn't just the isolation of the night. It was something deeper, something I hadn't allowed myself to acknowledge until now. His words hit me harder than I expected. What was I supposed to say? I don't know why I did it. I don't know what made me reach out, but I did. My hand, trembling just slightly, brushed his, and in that moment, something shifted. It wasn't just a touch. It was like an unspoken promise, an invitation. His hand moved toward mine, and his grip tightened, just enough to tell me that he was feeling the same thing. There was no turning back now. I stared into his eyes, and it hit me. For the first time in years, I didn't feel alone. I didn't feel like the only one carrying the weight of all my thoughts, all my emotions. His eyes told me he understood, even though we hadn't spoken a word more. The weight of the moment was unbearable, heavy with everything we hadn't said and everything we didn't need to. And yet, despite the tension, despite the fear that came with it, there was an undeniable truth. This wasn't a mistake. What was this feeling between us? Was it just the isolation, the rain, or something deeper, something we couldn't ignore any longer? Do you think this forbidden connection is real? Or is it just a fleeting moment of desire? Share your thoughts with me in the comments. I'd love to know what you think about the emotions unfolding between us. And remember, I read and reply to every comment, so drop a comment below and let's talk about it. Then, without warning, he leaned in closer. His breath brushed my cheek, warm and soft, so close that I could feel the quiet weight of the moment pressing between us. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat louder than the last. He was still inches away, but every part of me ached to close that gap, and I could almost hear the quiet whispers of my own desire pulling me toward him despite every reason to stop. "You're not just my friend's wife," he whispered, his voice barely audible, like a secret that had been kept too long. "I see you. The woman you've always been. The words hit me like a wave, unexpected and raw. They struck something deep inside me, a place I hadn't allowed myself to feel in years. My husband's best friend, confessing feelings I hadn't even known existed. Was I going to let this happen? Could I? I didn't pull away. I couldn't. It wasn't just him, it was me too. Something inside me had been awakened, a longing I couldn't ignore any longer. The pull between us was undeniable, like gravity pulling two stars together, unstoppable. I felt the weight of every moment we'd shared, the quiet laughter, the passing glances, the lingering touches, all of it leading up to this. I had known somewhere deep down that it wasn't just coincidence, but to hear him say it, to hear him admit that he saw me as more than just Michael's wife, it sent a shiver through me, and as our eyes locked, I realized something else. I had been waiting for this, for him to see me, to notice the woman I had buried beneath the years. I couldn't deny it anymore, couldn't pretend it wasn't happening. The tension between us thickened. Every breath we shared felt like it was charged with everything we hadn't said. And then, slowly, cautiously, our lips met. It wasn't fast, wasn't hurried. It was slow, tentative, like the first rain after a long drought. But it wasn't just a kiss. It was everything that had been unsaid between us. Every look, every quiet touch, all of it poured into that one moment. And once we crossed that line, there was no going back. But what would happen next? What do you think now? Was it worth crossing that line, or do you think it was too much to handle? I want to hear your opinion. Drop a comment below. The rain had stopped, but the storm inside me hadn't. I lay in bed, wide awake, replaying everything in my mind. Every touch, every word, the kiss. I couldn't stop thinking about how quickly it had all happened, how easily we had crossed a line that I never imagined we'd cross. What had happened? What did it mean? And what would Chris do now? Would he pretend it didn't happen? Act as if we could just go back to the way things were? What about Michael? The questions spun around my mind like the storm outside, unanswered and unsettling. My heart was heavy, torn between guilt and something else, a strange sense of peace. I wasn't just a wife anymore. I was a woman who had been seen for the first time in a long while. I thought about how it felt when Chris looked at me, not like his friend's wife, but like a woman with her own desires, her own needs. That moment when I realized I wasn't invisible to him, it was powerful, more powerful than I cared to admit. How would we move forward? Could we go back to pretending nothing had changed? The next morning, everything seemed normal, too normal. Chris had left before I woke up, no words spoken, no promises made. But there was a quiet understanding between us now, an unspoken connection that neither of us could deny. The space between us had shifted, and even though he was gone, the weight of what had passed lingered in the room. I couldn't pretend it hadn't happened. I couldn't pretend I didn't feel it. We both knew what had passed between us, and while I wasn't sure where it would lead, one thing was for sure. I would never be the same again. The question remained hanging in the air. What now? Was this just a fleeting moment, or was it the beginning of something we couldn't ignore? If you've enjoyed this journey, please give this video a like. Your support means everything. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more emotional stories like this. If you know someone who believes in forbidden love, or someone who needs to hear this story, share it with them. Let's spread this story far and wide. And turn on the notification bell so you'll be the first to know whenever I drop more amazing stories. Thank you all for your love and support. It means the world. Before you leave, check my channel for more emotions and satisfying stories like this. See you next.